you think has the most pole positions in 2025? Take a guess. This question is also valid for you, Kunal.
I know who has maximum pole positions, and it is Max Verstappen. That was that was some pole, that was some performance, there was a statement. All the talking he did not want to do in that 33 media 33 media people present in his media session. That's the kind of talking Max Verstappen loves to do. That's the kind of talking I love Max Verstappen doing. Wow, what a pole position. And Soumil, how many drivers were in the battle for pole in Q3? Like four or five of them, all
Five.
different teams. Yeah, there we go. List them down.
Five different drivers. Let me just pull up the data sheet. Max Verstappen in a Red Bull Racing RBPT Honda. So Verstappen, Red Bull Honda. Piastri, McLaren Mercedes. Then we had Lando Norris, McLaren Mercedes again. We then, after that, had George Russell in a factory Mercedes finishing in P4. And George Russell was very impressive, by the way, because Russell ended up finishing just 1/10 away from the pole sitter. That was the gap between P1 and P4. For context, back in 2021, at the same race, the British GP, the gap between P1 and P4 was 7/10 of a second. That is how close Formula One is. And Lewis Hamilton as well was in the mix in a Ferrari. And had it not been for Max Verstappen's bonkers lap, where he pulled out 4/10 of a second in his final qualifying run, Lewis was just 1/10 away from the pole sitter, and he had a couple of purple sectors too. I don't remember such an unpredictable qualifying, Kunal, and so much to it. Different drivers and teams, the wind playing a major role, and at the end, the best showing why he's the best.
Even if the car's not the best, right? That's
Yeah.
what. So many thoughts coming to my mind. The first one, everyone watching this because you're a new fan of Formula One, F1 movies happened, etc., etc. Please sit with 20 friends and family. And I always use the multiple of 20 because there are 20 drivers. There's no other math to it. It's just an easier number. But sit with them, show them how the real life Formula One actually tops real life Formula One. There may not be a new F1 movie every season, but there is a new story, new narratives at least 20 to 30 times every Formula One season. So watch qualifying, explain it to them, get ready for the race tomorrow because I think even the race is going to be a cracking one, Soumil. We'll get to that. But we saw, the minor margins that actually decided the qualifying session today. Max Verstappen choosing a low downforce wing setup on
Yeah.
a otherwise medium to high downforce, or at least towards a medium downforce track. He's going to be super fast on the straights, but can he look after those tires and how will he defend against the McLaren? So maybe he's just decided, I'm not going to win a race, but can I just mess it up? Can I just entertain people? I'm getting flashbacks of Miami, where he had both the McLaren drivers behind him and he was sort of doing extremely well in terms of defending them. And you know what? Better track than Silverstone. We saw that in Formula 3. We saw that in Formula 2. Some incredible defensive
Yeah.
driving that one can do. And then we also saw the onboard Soumil. Oscar Piastri, just a couple of tenths, a couple of corners before the final checkered flag, had a bit of a wobble, could have lost it there. Lando Norris took too much of the inside line. Maybe he's just waiting for us to invite him on the inside line. Lost it there. Lewis Hamilton, purple first sector, and the time just went away as the lap sort of unfolded. That's probably been the story of Ferrari. But Hamilton out qualifying Leclerc is also one of the stories of today.
Unsurprising because it's Lewis Hamilton's own circuit. Well, he has a straight named after him here. That's right. There's a Sir Lewis Hamilton straight at the Silverstone circuit. So, unsurprising. This was bound to happen, even though it is quite an impressive result given the circumstances of the season. But you're right. It's the whole story of Ferrari. It all tailed away from them. All the hope ending up with no end product. But that final lap, Kunal, that is what really rings in my head because of course, improving is a very subjective thing. If you've had a bad second run, of course, your third run has more room for improvement. And hence the stat that Max Verstappen improved by 4/10 on his final run, whereas the others didn't. It's a little misleading, although it's very impressive. But the important thing is, Verstappen delivered in a crunch moment when nobody expected him to. And he did so by quite a margin. Now, sure, The wind must have helped him out. There must be some gust of wind that attacked Piastri and Norris's laps that didn't maybe attack land that they maybe attack Max Verstappen. Sure, all of that and beyond. But to do this, a great lap at Silverstone at a low downforce, like a comparatively low downforce setup, which would make his car so volatile at Maggots, Beckett's, Chapelstowe, and all the other fast corners, and to even then be a tenth and a half faster than everyone. That is bonkers. That is genuinely bonkers.
We've actually seen this before, Soumil, and I remember doing this analysis on Viaplay a couple of years ago. Lewis and Russell, again, two drivers in the same team, had made different setup choices, and the circuit, especially these ground effect cars, allow for such bold setup choices. And like I said, if Max is, we've seen the last couple of races, Max and Red Bull know that outright pace, they can't do anything against McLaren, so they have to mix it up. That mixing up is strategy. Most races they'll try a three stopper when the others are doing a two. That mix, sort of risk this weekend is a low downforce versus a high downforce. They realize what's the worst case? We'll be third or fourth. But hey, we are anyway going to be third or fourth. Why don't we try and have some fun along the way? And what I love about this is goes back to our conversation. Was it yesterday or day before? What's a quick car? When Max
Yeah.
says, I need a quick car, well, here's a car on pole position.
Hey man, now that we should revisit after the race weekend is done. Comments?
No,
They're here.
we can revisit it all you want. But if that was not a quick car, he wouldn't have put it on pole. Let's remember, it's not Max who's, had 6, 7 tenths on the whole field or whatever. I think that's a quick car, like I said. Is it a dominating one? No. But is it a quick car? Bloody hell it is.
Yeah, I think
At the
that's
hands
about
of a
right.
quick driver, no doubt.
Quick, I think the best. I think he's the best. There's no way in hell that he should have 4 pole positions this year. Each one of them progressively more impressive than the other one. It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. I'll tell you what though. What does not also make sense is the notion that McLaren will dominate this race because Zach Brown has come to the media and has said that we're not the favorites because it's not hot, because the track temperature is actually lower, which it is. Track temperatures were around 23 degrees, ambient temperature 19, which is a very big difference to what we see at the likes of a Miami or a Bahrain, where it's often 45 degrees track temperature and the likes. Because it's comparatively cooler here, that does bring other teams and drivers into the mix. And Zach Brown said that we're basically on par on long run pace. Now, is that true or not? Take it with a pinch of salt. That's just what he said. Is it lowering the expectations? Perhaps. Is it mind games? Could well be. Is it the truth? You make up your own mind. But it's a fact. It is out there. And in cooler temperatures, we have seen the Mercedes to be very consistent. We don't know how Ferrari will be, but generally their race pace has been better than their qualifying pace. And it's Max Verstappen. So we are having a treat of a race, Kunal. There's so many factors, and I'm not even counting the midfield, where for that matter, we have seen Fernando Alonso put in a phenomenal lap time to go right up to P9, which will now get him up to P7 because Antonelli and Behrman both have penalties.
That's true. And, I mentioned this whole fandom increase because of the F1 movie. Take people, get them to watch the Formula One qualifying and the race this weekend, pretty much every weekend. Also, get people to watch us live because
Yeah.
we are simplifying the sport. We are digging through data. We have stats, facts, history, and several other things. Including sitting in a garden where my daughter's probably going to interrupt us in the next 30 seconds, asking, "Are you still talking about Formula One?" But 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 in a truthful sense, I think Fernando Alonso being there, the Haas being there,
Yeah.
Pierre Gasly being there. One of my favorite stats about Gasly is that he's either out of Q1 all races or he's in Q3. There is no middle ground in Q2. And my daughter's saying, I know that. So maybe she's heard me say that before. But yeah, Fernando Alonso was there. Oliver Behrman in his home race, starting in the top 10, or at least had the chance till that red flag infringement that seemed pretty black and white in terms of penalty and penalty points. And in general, Soumil, I think what Zach Brown meant is when the track conditions are regular, which is what we see European summer being regular. There's a heat wave. I'm sitting in Switzerland and, just melting away. That's how hot it is. But when are McLaren most dominant? They are most dominant when you have to take care of your tires,
Yeah.
especially your rears. And it's progressively difficult to do that when it's extremely hot, and the circuit temperatures are very hot, the circuit surface is very hot. That's when their magic of being able to extend stint lengths, of being able to fight, attack, defend, and fight again, which is what we saw in Austria. Such high temperatures, and Piastri and Norris were at it like there was nothing bothering them with the rear tires, where everyone else was managing. So in the race tomorrow, it being cooler means technically, McLaren's advantage of being able to take care of the rear tire temperatures is what becomes much lesser, and the word is marginal, because we heard Oscar Piastri say marginal this race weekend in qualifying. It was one of the Mercedes being released from their garage, from their pit box last weekend in Austria. We heard McLaren tell Oscar that his move at turn four on Lando Norris was marginal. So yes, I'm
Yeah.
going to use the word marginal, where McLaren's abilities to manage rear tire temperatures becomes far less marginal, or far marginal compared to some of the other top teams. So I don't know, who do you think is going to win tomorrow? Soumil, give me one name, no explanation.
Uh, uh, why do you make me do this? While,
You
oh,
have you have 20 names to choose from, including Carlos Sainz. Come on, pick one name. We won't hold you to it on your fan code broadcast.
Max Verstappen.
There we go. Okay, that was easy. I
That's
will.
not easy. That was not easy, my friend. And
I.
that was not, which by the way, Manny resonates with. He says that Max is brilliant, but I'm keeping fingers crossed that Ferrari has a better race setup. Thank you for the comment, Manny. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm leaning to the Max is brilliant argument, but you could lean on the Ferrari has a better setup argument.
Well, no, I don't think it's a Ferrari win. I think maybe Lewis could get onto the podium, but it means others not getting there. That's my feeling.
Yeah,
Very
actually,
interesting.
you know what,
Yeah.
Kunal? One second before we go there, let's leave aside who's going to win this race. Can you predict the three drivers do you think you're going to be seeing on the podium? At this point, you cannot count anyone out. Like
Yeah.
Russell, Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, Hamilton, Leclerc. Six.
Yeah. Well, okay. If it keeps getting cooler, Mercedes comes into play. If it gets wet, I think Verstappen and Hamilton bring themselves into play. I'm going to go bold with an Oscar Piastri win, with Verstappen on the podium and Lando Norris on the podium as well. And I'm impressed by Oscar Piastri because we spoke about this. McLaren is working extra hard to get Lando that feel back. We've seen Lando come into, dominating Austria. We've seen him not. I mean, he was 15 hundredths away from Oscar Piastri, which is not, which is hardly a gap at all.
Yeah.
And I get a feeling Oscar's taking that into his stride. I'm yet to confirm if Oscar's also using the suspension geometry part that Lando started to use from Canada onwards. But for him to not be phased, and always there in the top three, top four, top two positions, always being there in the battle, there and thereabouts. I like that about Oscar. And I think Oscar will take extra joy in beating Lando at home in front of, what's it called, the Lando stand or whatever
The
it's called.
land is the no. Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I'll check. I'll check that out in the meantime. While you do
Yeah.
that,
Anyway,
while we do
yes.
that, there are comments. Sadhna has come up with a very cool one. One team in the top 10 is equal to the other team must suffer. That's the law. Ferrari and Williams' happiness cannot coexist. Yes, yes. And you know what? I agree with you particularly because our favorite driver, Carlos Sainz, he missed out on Q2 by 500ths of a second. Pierre Gasly went through.
Yeah.
Now, like, he could have been in Q3. Now, of course, he
That
will
that that
start.
that Q1. Yeah, yeah. Go on. There's a lag.
Yeah,
Sorry. Go on.
yeah, so Carlos Sainz will indeed start in P10 because Behrman's penalty and Antonelli's three place won't affect Carlos, so he will be there. But imagine if he was in Q3. Imagine if he could have dismantled some other driver, perhaps a Fernando Alonso, perhaps a Pierre Gasly. It could have been even better. Could have been hell as good as a P7 for all you know. 500s.
That's the most beautiful thing for me. I mean, what's a respectable gap between teammates? A tenth, two tenths? That's what seen PS3 have pretty much all of the last couple of seasons. But guess what? If it's a tenth or two tenths, it's being in Q2 or not, and being eliminated in Q1 or not, and that's what we saw. We've been seeing. I think P1 to P19 was 0.688 of a
Yeah,
second, and I
600s
think
in
that's,
Q1.
and remember, this is one of the fifth longest circuits on the calendar. It's not an Austria, which is whatever fourth shortest or whatever number you put there. It's a high speed circuit. It's got what 18, 19 corners. At least I call them the corner names, not the corner numbers. But my point being that for the field to continue to be so close at circuits so technical at Silverstone, I think that just shows how close this field is. But also, head-to-head qualifying no longer makes a lot of sense unless you take what the average gap between teammates have been per session, because you've got tires and what sort of tires you've used. And I mean, the puzzle for all of this and me continues to be Nico Hulkenberg. I think he's been knocked out 9 times out of 12 in Q1. He's 19th today, and again Bortoleto has qualified ahead of him, and I think he might still score points. But yeah, either way, that's the long and short. Somal, what do you think
Who?
about race
Bortoleto
strategy?
might score points.
Bortoleto might also score points. Yes, I love
Oh,
Sauber's revival. I
but
published an interview with Peter Sauber just yesterday for Gulf News, and wow, he is so chuffed about the fact that Sauber is going to lose its name on the grid again. But he said it can't. My team couldn't have been in better hands than being with Audi. So hopefully, anyway, what's your take on race strategy tomorrow, Samuel? I believe everyone's tire utilization has been fairly standard. What I mean by that is there have been no deviations from the usual. Mercedes has been a bit caught out by the one-step softer compounds, it seems. Ferrari, as always, as the weekend progresses, as the track gets quicker, they're unable to extract as much time, even though they had a really quick Friday. I think they would be disappointed by not being up there in qualifying. But yeah, and who else? We saw Liam Lawson get eliminated in Q1.
yeah,
But yeah, I think we're in for a lot of racing tomorrow, no
yeah,
doubt.
big time, big time. And Silverstone is a circuit that allows you to do so. As for race strategy, sorry, I don't have an answer yet. I will have to go through the graphic that will come up tomorrow morning about which team and driver has how many tires left and what allocation, which might just be thrown out of the window because it's a wet race. So it's going to be hard to tell. It's going to be hard to tell. Silverstone's normally a circuit where you do have lots of abrasion. It's a very high lateral load circuit, so the tires are going through a lot. The corners are long, very high speed. So who can conserve their tires if it's a dry race is going to be very important. And also temperatures. Who can manage tire temperatures the most? Because last year, McLaren were outright quickest, but they lost out because of a poor pit stop strategy with Oscar Piastri and Hamilton being able to put his tire temperatures in the right window and the McLarens being unable to do so, which is why he won with a Mercedes, which was upper midfield car last year, pretty much. So there's a
Which I
lot.
must say, the whole cycle of learning McLaren went through last year.
Yeah,
I'm yet to see McLaren make an obvious glaring error in on the pit wall this season, right? And
yeah,
I think it's also due to the fact that they've got a safer margin this year in the race than many of the races last year. Let's see what happens.
true.
Let's see when there are multiple teams that come calling, and let's see. May the best driver and team pit wall win, Soumil, and pit crew as well.
Exactly. And tomorrow we are going motor racing. And after that, we're also going live on the Inside Line F1 podcast. So don't forget to join us for the post race show, where hopefully all three of us are going to be there. and it's going to be a ton of fun. So subscribe to the Inside Line F1 podcast, folks. Thank you. It's been a great episode. So much fun having a word with all of you. And thank you for all the comments, guys. It's been so cool to see all of you coming in and sharing your opinions. Manny, Sadhna, Jay, all of you folks. Again, see you tomorrow. It'll be a fun race. And make sure you engage with us on our social media platforms because Uttara is going to be posting in a lot of really cool engagements and a few fun quizzes as well. But Sadhna is saying, what happens if we get a slightly wet race? Max pulled through, but will McLaren and yeah, I think it's a good question to end
You
on.
know what? But Red Bull's actually not betting on a wet race. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken that low
Yeah.
downforce wing gamble. But it's Max. I mean, it could still rain, and he could still make it work with that low downforce wing. Who knows? Because I mean, I'm not trying to say Max is superhuman. Maybe he is. Maybe he's super Max. But a lot of the downforce from these cars anyway comes from the floor and everything that you don't see. So maybe Red Bull is betting on not having a wet race. But if they do, it doesn't mean that Max has got the worst setup compromise. But anyway, let's see. See you guys tomorrow.
See you guys tomorrow. We'll catch you. Bye bye.